Good evening. This is Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, the Supreme Court has cracked down on diesel vehicles in Delhi, banning the registration of 2000cc cars until the 31st of March next year. Is this a big step to clean up Delhi's air, or is it just tokenism? That's our big debate tonight on what has been a landmark ruling, and one which has affected trucks and taxis as well.
It's not just top-end cars and SUVs, even popular ones like Mahindra Boleros, XUVs and Toyota Innovas, which have been hit by the landmark judgment. There are three key decisions for Delhi, as well as bordering areas like Gurgaon and Noida. The first, a headline grabber: no new registration till March 31st of any diesel vehicle with an engine larger than 2000cc. Bar all trucks using Delhi as a thoroughfare, these will need to bypass Delhi, that will need the cooperation of bordering Uttar Pradesh and Haryana. Convert all taxis to CNG by 1st March. This will affect services such as Uber, Ola and all web app-based taxi services. Diesel cars older than 10 years will not be allowed into Delhi. Notably, the court said the common man will not be affected by this ban on top-end diesel engines. An IIT Kanpur study had said that diesel vehicles contribute to 70% of the pollution caused by vehicles in Delhi. However, for every 2000cc diesel vehicle, there are multiple smaller diesel engine vehicles which meet exactly the same emission standard as the larger ones and so are just as polluting.
We are celebrating because it's been a 15-year struggle. We raised the issue of diesel cars way back in early 2000, and yet the automobile industry never listened to us.
Auto manufacturers and taxi operators are unhappy.
I think it definitely, these very fast change in policies are detrimental to investment and employment. Definitely. It's not diesel, petrol or CNG, but it is actually what is the level of emission that you're specifying.
ये गाड़ी ली किस्तों से फ्री हो पाऊंगा, फिर दूसरी गाड़ी नहीं लो, फिर किस्तों में 4 साल के लिए फिर किस्त भरते रहो, तो सारी जिंदगी यही करते रहेंगे ना, आगे तो बढ़ नहीं सकते ना। फिर हम
इनको कहाँ ले जाएं, इसका भी कोई सोल्यूशन निकालें तभी तो। अब नहीं तो ये ऐसी तो जो पहले से डीजल की गाड़ियाँ चल रही हैं दिल्ली में, अब हमने 2 साल पहले डाली हुई है, तो अब ये मार्च के बाद कहाँ ले जाएं इसको, ये तो बताना पड़ेगा ना गवर्नमेंट को या कोर्ट को, जो भी है।
The Delhi government, which says diesel is 7 times more polluting than petrol, has told the Supreme Court it wants a complete ban on diesel. It is not clear whether the court will have a follow-up order, given that after 3 months the big engine diesel cars can return.
But the latest order shows that the writing's on the wall, and it's only a matter of time before not just Delhi but India moves towards cleaner energy norms. In fact, North India is currently 10 years behind the latest Euro standards. With camera person Hira reporting from Delhi, Tonima Biswas for NDTV.
Well, we're joined now by the man who's in a sense been at the center of this battle against the auto industry and trying to get the Supreme Court to act tougher on diesel. Harish Salve, senior Supreme Court lawyer and amicus curiae in this case, joining us on NDTV today. Mr. Salve, would you describe this as a great victory in your battle and the battle that you and the Centre for Science and Environment have fought in trying to make Delhi's air cleaner? Would you say that this would be a big step towards that?
Nidhi, in fairness, let me not take any real credit for this. This is terrific work done by the Bhuralal Committee and terrific work done by the Centre for Science and Environment. I only was their mouthpiece in the sense that I got up and projected it before the court. And they have been fighting this battle, and I have been helping them fight this battle for the last decade, more than a decade. And I must say, this is the first time after the order of CNG, which I think was in 2000 or 2001, that we have got such cracking orders from the Supreme Court addressing the question of pollution.
So how much do these vehicles that have these engines above 2000cc, how much pollution do they really contribute to, A? And B, if the ban is only for 3 months as it is right now, will it really be effective if they're back on the roads after that? If you could answer both these points.
See, the reason why diesel vehicle registration has been stopped is to prevent exacerbation of the problem. The vehicles on the roads have not been stopped for the present. How people are to be discouraged from using diesel vehicles, whether a cess environment compensatory charge should be imposed on diesel vehicles is something which the court will consider, hopefully on the 5th of January. The immediate problem was, how do we prevent exacerbation of this problem? Initially, we were persuading the court to prohibit all registration of diesel vehicles till March 2006, till this entire issue can be resolved and this crisis of air pollution passes away. There's another significance. Hopefully, by 1st April 2016, we might get BS4 fuel pan-India. And that may help in at least reducing to some extent the pollution which is caused by BS2, BS3 being used. We have BS4 in Delhi, so passenger cars are already using BS4. But the pollution, you must understand, at BS4 levels, according to the figures which CSE gave me, if I remember correctly, is 1 diesel car equals 7 petrol cars. So to prevent exacerbation of this problem, for the next 3 months at least, the court said, don't register any more diesel cars. They will hear this matter further.
Yeah,
and
but
how
that's
this
2000
problem of
cc and
dieselization
above.
of passenger
I'm
fleet
asking whether
is
it
to
would
be
have been
addressed.
more effective if
Yes.
if
in
all
fact, we
diesel-
asked for a complete shutdown.
Yeah, so
The
is
court
this
said
going to be effective
every
enough?
bit helps.
Every bit,
The court
but it's a
said
very
at
small
least
bit.
let the. Sorry, I lost you there.
I'm saying that it's a very minuscule bit. I mean, certainly I'm saying you're conceding that as well, that it would have been more effective.
It is not
if
that
all
minuscule. It is not that minuscule. Total diesel vehicles, according to the IIT report, if I remember correctly, is about 20% of the total car pollution. So it's not minuscule. The reason is 1 diesel car equals 7 petrol cars. So please keep that in mind.
No, I agree.
Secondly,
I'm
the
only asking
kind of
whether
emissions which come out of
2000cc
diesel,
and above,
the SOx, NOx, etc.
But whether by limiting it to 2000 cc
I agree with you. There should have been an across the board ban. The reason why the court said at least 2000 and above is because and this is exactly what happens. If you delay the ban, it becomes worse. The auto traders came and said, we have small people who have invested monies for inexpensive diesel cars. You will hurt the common man by preventing registration immediately. So the court said, very well, we are allowing this registration now and we will consider this matter further, but please know, you could well end up paying an environment compensation charge come January. So don't feel that, oh, this is coming on to you.
Mr. Salve,
but the court felt that something which was completely a low-hanging fruit, something which could be done away with, should be done away with.
The same IIT Kanpur report that everyone is talking about and that you also referred to in court, it talks about, as you said, that diesel vehicles actually contribute to 60 to 90% of the particulate matter emissions in Delhi, and that is what is killing all of us. The same IIT study also says that trucks and road dust are the largest contributors of polluted air in Delhi. So this report seems to be saying many different things.
Absolutely.
And therefore,
and that is addressed in this order.
And you feel that the order addresses that, everything that the report lays out?
In fact, the report fills up a very important gap we've had in data up till now. It is called source pollution. So they have identified where the pollution comes from. Road dust is a major problem in Delhi. And that is why the direction to start paving the roads immediately, roadsides immediately, and the Delhi government has been directed that immediately they have to take steps for importing vacuum machines for cleaning the roads of Delhi. They themselves offered, the court said, do it right away. But that you can't stop, you can't do that overnight. If it takes 3 weeks to pave the road, it will take 3 weeks to pave the roads or roadsides. Because it's over 5,000 kilometers of arterial roads. If that much paving is done, it will make huge difference, I believe. So every head of pollution has to be addressed.
Mr. Salve, let me just read out to you some of the reactions though from industry majors today. Pawan Goenka of Mahindra and Mahindra has said that diesel vehicles have become whipping boys, that Vikram Kirloskar has said that we have very high regulations already. We are at Euro 4 while Indonesia is at Euro 2 or 3, and first we should have Euro 4 across the country. Now, isn't it a fact that many of these diesel vehicles are Euro 4 compliant? So are they not meeting certain emission standards already in any case?
I don't know which direction we should look at, Nidhi. Should we look at Europe, which is on Euro 6, where at which level a diesel car is as little polluting as a petrol car, or should be looking at Indonesia and getting inspiration from there? Point number one. Point number two, the most delightful reaction, the most heartening reaction, I think, was what Mr. Anand Mahindra tweeted, in which I saw.
No, that's true, and
this is how corporate citizens have to rise to the occasion.
And he said when the going gets tough, he's certainly going to get going, and his company will. But my last question, Mr. Salve, then is on Euro 6. Because you raised this point about Euro 4 and Euro 6. You know, do you think it's time for the courts to step in and you know, put in a deadline and say that we have to become Euro 6 compliant sooner rather than later? Do you think that is possible, that it needs to be forced down?
Do you know the problem, Nidhi? I don't know whether you know this. The earlier roadmap for transition to BS4, equivalent to Euro 4, was a roadmap up to 2010. We are in 2015. We don't have a further roadmap, crystallized roadmap. They are now making the roadmap. In 2015, we are still making a roadmap of where we will be in 2015. So I think the time has come for the union government to take a hard look and go in for Euro 6. Now, I can't vouch for this, but one comment which I heard is that the oil companies feel that they will invest the money it takes them to get their refineries to go into Euro 6 level fuel. It is some of our automobile manufacturers, including especially the truck manufacturers, who are not even Euro 4 compliant. The passenger cars apart, the truck manufacturers are not even Euro 4 compliant. And they have not got type approval for, some of them don't even have truck type approval for Euro 4. Let's talk about them also. So I think a time has come for the union government by January 16 to come and tell the Supreme Court when the whole country is going to be Euro 4 and when is Euro 6 going to be put in. And let us not worry about the truck manufacturers. Believe me, when we fought for BS1 and BS2 to come in, and the roadmap to come in, we had affidavits by car manufacturers saying impossible of compliance. And they complied within a few weeks. In fact, I remember Mercedes and one more car which were there at that time in India, they filed affidavits saying we are already compliant. All the other people came and said impossible, we can never comply, and then they complied immediately.
All right. Well, I think that's an important point that you make there, Mr. Salve. Ultimately, if the car manufacturers want, they can put their money there and they can comply with whatever norms are set down. Thank you for joining us on this, Harish Salve. Well, that was Harish Salve speaking to me earlier, perhaps one of the big newsmakers today in a sense, since he's been fighting this case in court. Joining us on the program tonight, senior lawyer Pinaki Mishra. He's been representing many of the automobile companies and arguing on the other side of this. Also with us, Vikram Kirloskar, the vice chairman of Toyota Kirloskar Motor Limited. Sunita Narayan, who has been fighting this case along with Mr. Salve in court, joins us tonight, the Director for Science and Environment. Praful Patel, Rajya Sabha MP of the NCP, former minister, and Suhail Seth joins us this evening from Goa. Preeti Menon from the Aam Aadmi Party. Lots of you tonight. I promise everyone will get a chance to speak because we have the whole hour to talk about this. But Mr. Kirloskar, let me ask you first. Harish Salve made a point that in an ideal world, he and Sunita Narayan would have liked to have seen a ban on all diesel vehicles. It has been limited to 2000 cc and above. But he says even though it may be a small step, it is something that will prevent the exacerbation of the problem and that every bit counts. How would you respond to that argument, Mr. Kirloskar?
Well, first, my point is that I'm happy that the Supreme Court has come up with this, and I think congratulations to Mr. Salve and Ms. Sunita Narayan for doing this. The focus on environment is required. We do need to reduce pollution across the board, and I think that's the direction India is taking, which is very good. We are already, if you say ban all diesel, I think it's a little late to say that, and put it suddenly. We have put in certain regulations. We have made investments based on certain regulations. As a company, I can assure you that what we produce is way below those Euro 4 regulations. And if you suddenly say now stop all of that, I think it's a little difficult thing to say, to do, because you look at the amount of jobs, look at the amount of people who have invested in this, what will happen there? Also, what will happen to the whole mobility in the country? I think going towards a tougher emission regime, as the fuel gets ready for that emission regime, is the way to go forward to reach global standards both in terms of emission and in terms of safety. And we as a company will certainly rise to it and will follow whatever regulation that comes on.
Very interesting. Sunita Narayan, Mr. Kirloskar says that don't suddenly stop diesel cars. That's not the solution. Tougher emissions are the solution. Is that such an unreasonable demand to make?
No, absolutely not, Nidhi. And I think I totally agree with Mr. Kirloskar, and Mr. Salve and I have actually been asking the court to do exactly that. In fact, we had taken the matter of diesel cars to the Supreme Court way back in early 2000. So the fact is that if the court and if the government had listened to us at that time, in fact, the investment in diesel would not have been made, because it was by the early 2000s that WHO had in fact already classified diesel particulates as a likely carcinogen. And then later they said it is a definite human carcinogen. And this matter we have taken to court again and again, saying don't allow the manufacture of diesel cars. And we have always pointed to both the differential in emission standards as well as fuel price, which is driving large amount of cars to move to diesel. Sometime by mid 2000, 60% of the cars sold in Delhi were diesel. And we have also argued that we want better technology and better fuel. As Mr. Salve very rightly said, the problem has been the large truck automobile manufacturers who are still not even ready for Euro 4, forget Euro 6. So I think it is very important for us to move in all these directions. But Nidhi, please understand, we have a public health emergency as far as air pollution is concerned. We have to do something, and we have to do something which is radical
but Sunita,
and drastic.
Many of these cars that are banned today are already Euro 4 compliant. They are following what the emission rules are. My point is, how much is this going to help? And
can I answer that?
Are people being there's this sort of, is there a sweeping argument that's being given that, if you're rich and if you have an SUV or a big car and you're the ones who are polluting, whereas actually you may be driving a car that is emitting less than many of the others. It's just a question.
Can I
Sunita
quickly answer that?
Yeah.
Can I quickly answer that, Nidhi?
Yeah.
The fact is that when you even talk about Euro 4 diesel, it is allowed legally to emit 7 times more particulates and 3 to 4 times more NOx. That's the differential in the emission standard between petrol and diesel. So even if you have what you think is a clean diesel car, it is 7 times an equivalent petrol car. That's the legal standard today, emission standard today. That is what we have been fighting against. That is one. And as Mr. Salve said, we asked for a ban across all diesel cars. What the court has said is that at least as far as luxury cars are concerned, because there is a price differential today. Even today, diesel price is kept lower than petrol because it is reserved for railways and public transport and for goods travel. And the fact is that there is no reason on earth why Mercedes-Benz should use that fuel. So I think it's a combination of both issues that we need to consider.
Praful Patel, Sunita Narayan makes the argument that even if we're driving around in cars that may be Euro 4 compliant, these diesel cars are 7 times more deadly, basically, than their petrol equivalents. Praful Patel.
Nidhi, I have just 10 minutes. You will have to excuse me earlier from the program. So let me just complete what I would like to say. 2-3 things. First, the court order is welcome. Nobody can have two opinions on the state of emergency as far as the environment in Delhi and as far as the whole country is concerned. So congratulations Sunita Narayan and Harish Salve for having done what you have, and the courts for having given the order. But now there are 2-3 things which need to be looked in perspective. First, when you talk of diesel cars all the time, yes, I agree, diesel cars of yesterday were terrible, and they are the real contributors to the pollution, which we see a lot of it. Courts have time to time taken good decisions like CNG for public transport, buses, for 3-wheelers and all that. That has helped to an extent. But there are 2 major problems still remaining. One is 2-wheelers, nobody's talking about it. what is the kind of numbers we have in our country, and we are the largest motorcycle and scooter manufacturers, and it will have to happen because we need the cars, we need the two-wheelers, we are an aspirational country. So now the issue is whether you ban diesel and you say there will be more petrol cars. At the end of the day, the numbers, because I was the Minister of Heavy Industry, the automobile industry was part of my job, and I know exactly the numbers which are going to come in the next 5 to 10 years. So net result is whether you have less diesel and more petrol, that doesn't solve your problem of pollution in entirety. The real issues are two. That one, as far as diesel is concerned, there's a debate. Yes, I know diesel is more polluting as what you're saying, but there's also data which I have seen, which has been given. I'm not an expert, so I don't want to rely on my expertise, but I'm talking of Automobile Research Institute and various international institutions which have said that the new technology diesel, again, I repeat, new technology diesels, and especially when Euro 5, 6 will eventually hit in India, they are probably as clean as a petrol engine. I may be wrong, but I have this information on paper, the data officially, scientifically guaranteed. That the more important thing which I want to say is, in 2012-13, as Minister of Heavy Industry, I was the first chairman on the National Mission for Electric Vehicle Mobility, and that has been launched. The pilot project was to have been put up in Delhi in 2014-15. I have not been there for the last 20 months, but therefore I have no idea. Last 20 months, nobody is even talking about it. Now, when you are talking, Sunita Narayan or everybody else, about the environment, I also wish that why are we only engaging in a debate about petrol versus diesel? At the end of the day, you're going to have more vehicles on the road. Nobody is talking, how do we get more electric vehicles on the road? And for that, the pilot project was almost ready. That was almost ready, the pilot project. I was the first chairman, so I should know more. And I can tell you that if that pilot project was for Delhi, if it had been started by now, at least you would have had a beginning. You would have some solution, a roadmap ahead. And what does the pilot project entail? Basically, a charging infrastructure across the whole city and some kind of a subsidy. If you, on one side we are talking of diesel vehicles being subsidized with the cost of diesel, that same money could have actually, instead of the subsidy, should have gone into actually giving subsidy for getting more electric vehicles
Mr. Patel,
on the road.
Just give me a second. I just want to come to Pinaki Mishra on this, because Pinaki Mishra, the question then is that, and one of the big debates that has started since the odd-even debate actually began, is whether there is a knee-jerk, are we having a knee-jerk reaction to dealing with the pollution problem, or as Sunita Narayan and Harish Salve keep pointing out, and this is true, you know, we're breathing poison at the moment. These are desperate times, and every little step at the end of the day is going to count. If you know, this is low-hanging fruit in a sense.
When is Euro 4, Euro 5, Euro 6, what is the roadmap?
No. First to Pinaki Mishra.
What is the roadmap? That nobody is talking about it.
No, I'm coming to that. I'll just come to Mr. Mishra first. I'll just come to Mr. Mishra first. Yeah, Pinaki Mishra.
Nidhi, let me just clarify quickly. You said that I was appearing for the car manufacturers. That's not true. I was actually, there's some echo here if you don't mind. I was actually appearing for the car dealers in Delhi. And you know, there was no reason to punish car dealers suddenly, because you know, they actually buy from manufacturers by paying full amounts. So therefore they were saddled at the year end with massive inventories and suddenly you know, slapped with a ban, which I thought was something that the court could relook at in the National Green Tribunal. Now let me just tell you what the principle is. There is something in law called res extra commercium, which is a principle well enshrined by the Supreme Court, which says that you have no right to deal in certain commodities which are noxious in nature. For instance, alcohol, for instance, gutka. There is no right to trade in them. That's a matter of state largesse. Now, what the Supreme Court has done now, for the first time, I think, is brought diesel vehicles under the realm of res extra commercium. This is a very serious matter now. The Supreme Court is, of course, in its opinion, entitled to do it. I think it's a roadmap going forward. Clearly, we are all warned and forewarned now adequately that people who have been stupidly, I believe, buying diesel vehicles, you know, involving 30 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 2 crores, 3 crores, in the hope that they will save 5,000 to 10,000 rupees a month in the differential cost between diesel and petrol, I think now have to be forward. The courts have taken a very, very strong view on this matter, and rightly so. I was only against this sudden slapping of a ban at year end when people are saddled with stocks and would lead to hundreds of crores of losses. But now they are going to put to those losses. The Supreme Court in its wisdom has decided that some people must suffer some losses in order that this feeling percolates down that look, you cannot go on buying these large vehicles and polluting the atmosphere. So that's the lay of the land, and the Supreme Court has decided that. We have to be prepared in future, I think, more and more, increasingly, for some kind of a countervailing, virtually a sin tax on diesel vehicles. I think it's the right course of action. I have no doubt. But as Praful rightly says, I think the government is very largely to blame for the last 15 years. We have been very tardy in our going forward in terms of matching Euro 6 norms. Euro 5 is already an intermediate stage. We have to do away with it. So now actually we should be looking at Euro 6 norms within the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, you're a nuclear power. You know, you want to sit on the nuclear high table. This is not rocket science technology. This is very simple technology. Absolutely. It costs a lot of money. These petroleum companies are sitting on 100,000 crores. Each company has 100,000 crores worth of cash reserves. The automobile manufacturers have already told the courts, look, give us the fuel, we'll give you the engines. So now if the oil companies which are sitting in monopoly positions and sitting on absolutely record low oil prices, this is the time for them, I think, to plow back some of the money into research and development to ensure that this very simple technology which is obtained all over the world, this should now come to India post-haste.
I agree.
And more, I think people like us have to stop buying.
I just want to get a comment from Suhail before I come back to Praful Patel on this. Suhail, you've been tweeting all day today about how angry you are with this order. You don't agree with the steps the Supreme Court has taken today. Suhail, why? Because you know, as you live in the NCR region, it's a desperate situation in Delhi. Or do you believe it's a completely knee-jerk reaction, tokenism?
No, in fact, if you recall some of the tweets, I mentioned 3 or 4 things. Number one, it's a welcome step that we recognize the problem, and for that, kudos to Sunita and to Harish. Number 2, 4,000 cars, luxury cars or SUVs is what you sell compared to 5.1 lakh cars. So it's a minuscule amount. So the point that I mentioned was it's tokenism. The third thing which worries me is that you give such little notice to car manufacturers and, as Pinaki mentioned, to car dealers to kind of obliterate their stock. Number 4, Sunita and I had a discussion many weeks ago, and she rightly pointed out, if you want to reduce private mobility and bring in odd, even strictures on what we call impure fuel, you must bolster public transport. You don't bolster public transport, you don't have space on your roads which is commensurate with movement of normal people. What you're doing is you are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Now let me give you an example of the stupidity of not the order, because I don't want to go into jail for contempt, but see how illogical the order is. 2,000 and above SUVs, ban. 1996 is what Audi is. So Audi is fine. Sunita's point is valid. You either have a very structured approach, give automobile companies 6 months to clean up their act, and if they don't, then as Sunita said, ban all diesel vehicles. I'm objecting to a knee-jerk reaction for an industry that does the following. 7.9% of your GDP is the auto industry. It employs 7 million people directly, 20 million people indirectly. Pinaki raised the issue of dealers having had to pay upfront to car companies. Please understand, pollution is not about the rich or the poor. Pollution is about government inaction, government lethargy, and perhaps lobbies at play, as Sunita mentions in a wonderful article, which you should, by the way, put up on your NDTV website. Now, here's the solution. The solution is threefold. The Supreme Court, in its wisdom, must give more time by rapping people on the knuckles, but also setting guidelines for governments to perform. Let me give you an instance. BPCL, state-owned, has only 3 petrol pumps in all of NCR, which provide 97 petrol. So these are the companies that are tardy. You know, it's very easy in our country to say, oh, it's rich, therefore you need to be penalized. I've also said on your program, and I have had this discussion with Sunita, why don't you follow the Singapore model? If for second car, third car, you charge a higher fee, you charge a license fee. What is Singapore doing now? They are charging a separate license fee for weekend usage of cars. So Nidhi, the point I'm making is, please respect the problem, which we all respect exists. Sunita has mentioned in her note some issues that need to be addressed. My solution is bolster public mobility. As Praful mentioned, bring in electric vehicles. You don't even have tax incentives for electric vehicles like every other country does. And by the way, no country, no city in the world has banned diesel vehicles. We are again the first to do so. So we might get into the Guinness Book of Records.
That's not true.
No, which city has banned, Sunita? They've adhered to different emission norms.
Paris, Beijing, Beijing, many cities have banned. Yes, they've banned diesel vehicles.
Well, that's interesting, but Praful Patel, I
And
want to
London
ask
is
you on this
planning
point.
to ban
I want
then
to
I
ask
stand
Praful
corrected.
Patel
from 2020.
Preeti, I'll just come to you in a minute.
So let's be clear.
Mr. Patel, the point that Pinaki raised in Suhail as well.
Okay, I stand corrected on that. I was given to understand that
one
no
second,
city had
one
banned
second,
it.
Suhail, about government lethargy and lobbies at play. Now, would you concede that even when the UPA was in power, that, you know, this wasn't an issue that was really on the map? Because shouldn't we have been looking at setting tougher emission standards years ago? Would you concede that point?
Listen, no. I think, you see, the automobile industry has evolved in India in the last 10 years in a very different way. In fact, after the Auto Mission Plan was launched in 2006 to 2016, that is the first 10-year plan, I think if you see the quality of the vehicles on the road, we are not talking of the vehicles of the past, you see, which were really spewing smoke and polluting the environment. It's much better. I'm not saying it's the best, but as some people mentioned, we have Euro 4 now. We don't even have Euro 4 uniformly available in India. We are talking of now Euro 5. Euro 5 is also outdated. We should be thinking of Euro 6. And rightly Pinaki and Suhail have pointed out that the oil companies should be really investing at this time to make our fuel Euro 6 compliant, because the automobile industry can't do anything until and unless the refining capacity and the product of the fuel has to change. And more importantly, nobody is talking about the urban infrastructure. You see, why is there so much pollution in Delhi? All the vehicles are just standing in one place. They're moving bumper to bumper. We have to address that problem. Are we going to, you mean to say, even if diesel vehicles are banned, we are going to add 3,000-4,000 cars a day in Delhi, and that's going to, even if they are petrol, where are they going to move? How are they going to reduce the pollution of the emissions of Delhi?
Where are those vehicles going to move?
That is the real issue.
Sunita, just give me a second, because
Preeti
has been waiting. 1 second. Preeti, I want to ask you.
That is the real issue.
Sunita, please. Can I please get one panelist who's been waiting very patiently to speak?
Nobody knows how they're going to move.
Nidhi, I can't hear you. No, Preeti, I just have this. I have this question for Preeti Menon. 1 second, everybody. I'm just going to bring the mics to Preeti Menon only.
I can't hear you, Mr. Patel.
No, Preeti, my question is, a lot of folks are going to say, if you're going to stop rich people from buying diesel SUVs, they have the money to go and buy petrol SUVs anyway. So is the real problem actually a lot of two-wheelers, for instance, that are out there that are polluting the environment, which we don't even know at this point will come under the AAP's odd even rule? Is there a double standard on that? Preeti.
I think what we need to really understand is who are normal people. Mr. Seth over here just made a very elitist and appalling statement that is the public transport ready for normal people? Only 10% of Delhi's population owns cars. 90% who are normal people travel by this normal public transport system. So I think that what we are penalizing or what we are stopping is only a very restricted amount of 10% of Delhi's car owners. And if stringent action is taken against them, it is going to benefit 100% of the population. There is a health emergency right now.
There's an aspiring middle class in this country which wants more and more cars every day. Are you mean to say that there will be no future car owners in this country?
As well as the government to take stiff action.
Preeti, owning a car is not a luxury for everybody. For a lot of people, it's a necessity. I mean, the point that Praful Patel was making
Owning
is
a
that
car
there
is
is
no
an
more a
aspiring
luxury.
class two.
population.
No, 1 minute.
You're saying a lot of people, but let's talk numbers. There are only 10% of Delhi's population who are car owners, and those car
Yes, but
owners
the-
are 30%
but
of
the
Delhi's
balance-
pollution problem.
but the
So
balance
why do we need to
90%
control
is
them
aspiring to
immediately?
have a car.
We need
You
to
cannot say
control
that.
them immediately.
What
And
about
I
the
think
two
that
wheelers
balance
that are
90%
polluting?
is also
Let me
aspiring to own their own car.
But aspire to own an environmentally friendly car, aspire to use a car with some amount of social responsibility, where you are pooling when you have to, where you are using good fuel, and like we said, that like many of the panelists have said, it's very essential that the court now steps in and regulates
What
the
about
oil
the
companies,
polluting
because
two-wheelers?
governments have no will
Why
to do
is
it.
But
the
what
Aam
about
Aadmi
the number
Party
of cars,
government
whether
not
they're
even
diesel or
sure?
petrol, but the cars are going to come on the streets of Delhi.
No, but why is the
How
AAP
can you
government
stop
not sure
that?
about
That 90%
two-wheelers?
of
No,
those
no,
who own the
no,
car
come in on
are
this.
aspiring to own a
Anywhere
car.
else.
Come in on this.
They are restricted in London, they are restricted in almost all cities. So we are talking about the odd and even formula and different formulas to restrict
Why?
the number
But so
of
is that going to
vehicles
apply
on
to
road
two?
at any point
Preeti,
of
is
time.
that going to
As
apply
I'm
to
not for the
two-wheelers
order
or
reason.
not?
I'm not discussing that.
No, my question
No,
is,
it is not presently
I'm
covering
not talking about the
two-wheelers,
odd and
and we
even
have
formula.
to figure
That
out a
may be a
solution for
measure.
two-wheelers as well.